Hello, I'm Judy Mudd, and this art tip is about letting gravity work for you with watercolors. I teach several classes a week in watercolor, and I think one of the most common things I see in students is that they tend to paint flat on the table. Their paper and their support is flat on the table, and you tend to not get as much movement if the paints are just laying flat on the paper instead of actually flowing. I'm going to show you the difference between them. Here I'm painting flat, and you can see I'm not getting much movement. I'm going to add more paint to that just so I can try to get some movement. When it's flat, the paint could go this way or that way. It could go any direction. You really don't have control over that. Or it can just sit there absolutely still. Here I'm putting some red into that blue to try to make it look a little more interesting, and it still is not flowing. Let me show you the difference when I paint upright. Now you can see it's already starting to change on me when I start to tilt it back up. This is what I hope to get by painting upright. Now some people paint at 30 degrees like this. Some people paint upright like I am. I'm about at an 80 to 85 degree angle. Here's the difference. Put a little bit more in there. You can already see the water start to flow down with the paint. And now I'm just dropping some in there, and look at it's already working for me instead of me trying to push it in directions and stuff. Look how much prettier this is than something that's just laying flat. So let gravity work for you and paint a little bit upright. Now you can, let me just sit this here. If you want to paint on a tabletop, you can use something as simple as these door stops like this. These are like a hardware store, and they're the large versions. They're a little bit wider than the smaller door stops. So look for the largest door stop that you can find, and just get two of those. Sit those side by side on a table, and just sit them on your tabletop with the support on top of it, and it works great. Especially portable for classes and workshops, it really works great. The other alternative would be just to use an old aluminum box. Just lay it on the table. It's about that tall and a long like that. You can just lay your board on top of that. Other people have used, which is a little heavier, but they've covered a brick. You know, sometimes people use those covered bricks as door stops. They used to years ago. They use those sometimes to prop up their work. However, a brick would be much heavier than just using an aluminum box or the two door stops. So I'm sure there's other things that you can think of to use. Now, I actually paint on a traditional wood easel. You can see that right here. And I've had it for a long time, so I've gotten used to it. And I just paint upright. It has some tilt, but it's mainly upright all the time. Now, when you go looking for a watercolor easel, they actually have this top upper portion up here actually tilts like this. It can tilt back and forth, and you can lay your watercolor paper on it that way and decide what angle works best for you. It could be 30 degrees, or it could be almost upright like I do. So when you go to look for easels, that's what you should look for a watercolor easel. The other thing that I see that students tend to not do is move the paper or themselves. Now, I normally paint upright, and I also stand up myself. This gives me the freedom of movement that I need to get the effects that I want. Now, not everything works upright. Sometimes you want things to flow off the paper, so I may hold this flat, get it all nice and covered, and then let it flow this way off of the paper. The sky would be. And then if I'm going to do the street, then I may have it flow this way. So I may be turning this piece of artwork around over and over and over again just so that I can get the right angle to have the paint move the way I want it to move. Maybe trees, I want them to flow out maybe a little bit, so I may tilt it just a little bit. So I stand up normally. Now when I get down to my details, the little bitty details, I do sit down for those. But try standing up with painting and see how it works for you. Sometimes it doesn't work for everybody and they prefer to sit down. But also make sure you try to raise the back of your support up and get at least a 30 to almost, I should say, almost 80 to 90 degree angle. And try the various angles to see how it works for you. Once you do it, and if you continue to use it consistently, you'll get used to knowing how much paint it takes to stay on the paper or to run, or at whatever consistency you want. You'll start to learn how much it takes, paint to water, that it takes for to do, say, something like this in an upright angle. And it makes it a whole lot easier in the long run. And it really does let gravity work for you in letting the paints flow together and move together, and gives you a little bit more control, actually, than it does if you're laying flat down on the tabletop. Hope that helps about easels and using gravity to help you have your paint flow, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.